I hope everyone is having a fantastic start to 2026 as we are almost in March. But this week's episode, we're going to be diving into the big reasons why I lost interest in the NBA and then came back, lost interest again, came back, and now we're fully locked in. But yeah, so if you guys enjoy these type of episodes, make sure you leave a like on the podcast and subscribe if you're listening on YouTube or subscribe on Spotify if you're new. And we are now on Instagram at Books and Hoops Pod. So you should go check that out as well. The Instagram page for a bunch of different stuff there. So before we get into this, like I've always been a college basketball junkie more than an NBA, but this is why we're doing this episode. But let's get into it. So there was a time when the NBA was everything to me, and then I just, for whatever reason, I just didn't care anymore. And then, like, I was obsessed again. And then I walked away. And now, somehow, I'm back. So, it's a little crazy, but let's get into it. So, we're going to talk about the fallout and kind of, like, what made me love the NBA originally. And that was the fact that when I first started getting into sports, it was mostly football and baseball, but there's a crunch when football ends and when baseball starts, where you were missing in the swap dab in the middle. That's where basketball came in, and I grew up. All I really knew was New York and Boston sports. So like being from Connecticut, like that's all. That's all you really like talk in Connecticut is like New York and Boston, Boston, New York, whatever. So I grew up a Knicks fan. Big Carmelo Anthony guy back in the 2012s, and then KP, all that. But the Knicks were so bad during my childhood. They were atrocious. Like they were atrocious during the childhood, and it came to a point where like I'm just getting into basketball, so it doesn't really matter like that the Knicks are bad because at the end of the day, But as I started investing more into the NBA and as I started investing more into the Knicks, I realized like they didn't make the playoffs. Like, they made the playoffs in 2012, 2013, like, right around the time I started following basketball. But then from elementary school to middle school, up until my senior year of high school, they didn't make the playoffs. Up until my senior year of high school, which was the 2020-2021 season. And I remember just sitting there, like, in class at the time, in journalism class, and I was super excited for the Knicks, and everyone's like, the Knicks aren't going nowhere, the Knicks aren't going nowhere, the Knicks aren't going nowhere. But, yeah, so the Knicks is what made me fall in love with the game of basketball, but mostly Carmelo Anthony. Shout out Syracuse legend Carmelo Anthony. Shout out to all you Syracuse fans out there, too. Melo is a real game changer, so the Melo Knicks were super fun to watch. You had Jeremy Wing Sanity. Wing Sanity, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, Wing Sanity was phenomenal. Like, I loved Wing Sanity so much. Wing Sanity to me, Jeremy Wing Sanity, Wing Sanity. Jeremy Wing really ruptured the production for me as a Knicks fan, and I was super, super, super excited for Jeremy Wing. But then, after COVID and kind of after that, like, I kind of just fell out of basketball. I kind of just fell out of everything, like, kind of just, like, but, I will say, like, that season after they made the playoffs, I kind of just fell out of the game of basketball. Like, I didn't like the direction that the NBA was coming into, and I didn't like the direction that the NBA was going to be towards. But, again, it's like, it's like that lottery ticket. Like, you want to scratch it, and you keep coming back, and I would put basketball games on, I'd put playoff games on, and I'm like, this is a lot of fun. Like, this is a lot of fun, but for whatever reason, like, for the life of me, like, I did not like the NBA. This was a point where it was like, I don't want to talk NBA with anybody. I don't want to talk NBA with nobody. Like, the NBA sucks. Like, it was mostly college basketball. And to this day, I still am a big college basketball guy. But I do like the NBA, though. Like, we've talked, I think we've talked more NBA episodes on here than we have college basketball episodes, but I'm still a big NBA guy. But yeah, I mean, this was the point where I'm like, I don't like the NBA anymore, and it was like I don't know if this was like a trend with among people that I was hanging out with and talking to, but there was a trend where it's like a lot of people didn't really like the NBA anymore. Like the NBA was kind of just like was just there. Like a lot of people kind of fell out of the NBA and fell out of what they wanted for the NBA as a whole. But I don't know. It was something I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say it was like a player or a season. It's just like the Knicks at the time did not want to spend any money. James Dolan was not a good owner, but that is a discussion for a different day. There was like a lot of different like outcomes that went in mind with the Knicks, and I just felt like the NBA was not going in the direction I want. But then I fell back into it, and I fell back into it kind of just, the playoff runs. Then, I was playing fantasy a lot more, but I fell back into it. Jalen Brunson immediately became one of my favorite players when he was on Mavericks. The young talent of Giannis, kind of seeing. Okay, no, before we go into it, the big reason when I fell out of it too was it was constantly Lakers versus Warriors. I mean, Warriors versus Cavs, Warriors versus Cavs. And it was kind of just boring. Like it was fun, but it was boring. So now going back into it, once the Warriors and Cavs dynasty kind of ended and it became Raptors Warriors, I'm like, this is kind of fun back again. Like I kind of liked being back in the NBA, and I kind of liked it in a sense where the dynasty era, the super team era was gone because I came up in the LeBron, Dean Wade, Chris Bosh, Miami Heat super team, and then you had the Warriors and Cavs. So that was like one of the big reasons why I fell off the NBA. But let's get back on track to why I came back to it. Was just the young talent that was coming up and the different talent, like Kawhi going to Toronto and winning the city of Toronto, an NBA championship, and just seeing like the mountains of ways that the city of the country of Toronto, the city of Toronto and the country of Canada came to full fruition. It was phenomenal. It's like the amount of young stars that have continued to come in, like it was great. Like the 2019, like that season was great, and it got me fully back invested in backing love with the game of basketball. But yeah, that got me fully in line with the game of basketball. And then we're gonna talk about the second fallout. Give me 1 second. Alright, so then we flash forward to that era kind of just transpired and kind of just, fell back in love with the game of basketball again. Then we have the second fallout, and that fallout, in my opinion, was the one where I didn't think I was going to recover from the NBA, because the second fallout was kind of just like, I was kind of going through some stuff personally, with myself, where I was like, the game of basketball is not here at the moment, and I was like, bro, like, basketball used to be like my sweet spot. Like basketball used to be the thing I enjoyed doing, talking, having my own debate shows, having my own podcast, and then I kind of just fell out of it. Kind of just like it was like I don't know anymore. Like I don't know. I didn't know kind of like where it came from. Like, but I kind of again like I lost interest in the NBA, and I can't tell you exactly what this reason was this time, because I still don't know. But up until 2024, I wasn't really into the NBA anymore, and I don't know. I don't know what the reason was behind it. I don't know what the logistics was behind it, but I don't fully remember what it could have been. when it came to the NBA. I don't know if it was like because this wasn't the super team era. This wasn't like I kind of just watched interesting. And to be honest, like college basketball was my thing too. I mean, I slowly just started losing interest in that, and then I started losing interest in hockey. Like I didn't watch any NHL games for about 3 years. So like I slowly started getting back into the NBA, but I can't tell you the last time I lost interest in the NBA, came back, lost interest again. So, but yeah, and the Knicks were good at this point, so I can't like really sit here and be like, oh yeah, like this was the big reason. But then, I came back, and then I walked back into the NBA, and I walked back into the NBA, and the reason why I did still love the game, and I love the game in a sense where it's a peace zone for me. Like football is great, but just something about basketball, bro. Like, but basketball has always been something where I've related to with friends and family, and let's be honest here, basketball causes the most crazy diabolical debates. Like I just felt like I loved the game of basketball, and I felt like no matter like how much I hated the NBA at the moment, or even college basketball, like the game of college basketball has been the game of basketball is fun. And I realized like I love the NBA. Like the Knicks, the Knicks are like killing it. Like we have all these young teams like the Pistons, the Magic, the Suns, the Spurs, the Rockets, the Thunder. Like the future of the NBA is so bright, and I have fallen back in love with it. But I will definitely say that if I may fall out of I could definitely very well fall out of the NBA gang, but I'll never fall out of me. So like I'll never let the game of basketball allow me to fall out of myself, where I will very well could fall out of the NBA again. But I like I said, I love the NBA so much, and yeah. You know, they say that when you love something, you really, really leave it. And I said I was done with the NBA, but every single time, whether it was the playoffs or whatever, it just sucked me right back in. And I am now a college basketball and NBA nerd. Like, I love it. And this is what I like doing. This is literally what I like doing. So, anyway, for anybody, like, it is okay to take a break from something that you love, because when you come back, the reward is you're just gonna love it even more, and so it is phenomenal. But I always love the NBA because the NBA is phenomenal. College basketball is phenomenal. Women's college basketball is phenomenal. So it is definitely phenomenal. But I also wanted to discuss like how the NBA can fix their tanking problem, because there is so many different ways that they can fix tanking without needing to do it so long or just so ironical. Um, so there's 1,000 ways they could do it, but a couple days ago there was reports that Adam Silver was discussing taking out the NBA draft and replacing it with a free agent pool, meaning that college players could officially pick where they wanted to go to, and I am solely against that. And I was talking to my cousin the other day. Shout out to George. George, if you're listening to this, shout out to you. You are amazing. But I think it's a terrible idea, because like I was texting him about, like, you are going to give these big market teams like the Lakers, like the Knicks, like the Celtics, like the Bulls, like the Warriors, they're going to get all these top college free agents who maybe may not play right away, but they're going to want to go to the bigger market for jersey sales and more money. So then you're leaving teams like the Hornets, the Pistons, the Jazz, like all your small market teams out of it, because of the fact that college free agents are not going to want to go play for these small market teams, because more than likely the small market teams are never going to really win 9 times out of 10 they're not going to win a title. the big market teams have all the money, they get off but so it's like I think that's a terrible idea by the NBA, and I highly, highly, highly doubt that is going to ever be the case um with Adam Silver. I forgot his name for a second. I almost called him Albert. With Adam Silver, because that would ruin the game of basketball. Like that, I think that you would actually ruin the game of basketball right there. This is the way I would do it, and this is the way that I personally think you do it. You have the play-in tournament, which is phenomenal. Now you do a lottery tournament. So you prevent tanking by doing this because of the fact that teams now have to compete the entire season because they're not guaranteed the number one pick. Which means they will not be guaranteed the JT Toppins, the AJ Dinabantas, they actually have to go play more basketball to go earn that status of potentially trying to get that number one pick. I think that by doing it this way, you are basically abolishing the idea of that tank, because now you're abolishing tanking, because now teams are gonna have to compete. Like, you can rest all your star players all you want. Like if you're the Kings, like you can rest Domantas Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and all your stars, but you're not gonna be guaranteed the number one pick, because you're still gonna have to play meaningful basketball games to go out and get the players that you want. The player to potentially get the AJ Debanta out of BYU, or the JT Toppins out of Texas Tech, or whoever it is that you wanted. So that's how I would fix tanking, because the one thing it does is it brings more money into the NBA, which, let's be honest here, adding expansion teams like Seattle and Las Vegas, which we'll get to in a minute. But I think that is phenomenal, because now the NBA is going to make more money based off the fact that they're having a mid-season tournament that you could either pair alongside the play-in tournament, or you could pair alongside after the playoffs are over, in between finals games. You could even after the playoffs. But I think that having a tournament would be the best way to fix tanking, because of the fact that teams are going to tank no matter what. They're going to tank no matter what, unless you take out the reasons for them to want to tank, which would be take away the number one pick. Which is take away the number one pick and kind of just allow them to, not tank. So, as a very, 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 very simple explanation, just don't allow them to tank. You fix it. You put it in a play-in tournament. You put it in a lottery tournament. I like this way, but I want you guys to let me know down, either on the Instagram page or on this podcast page or on YouTube. You let me know what you think about that. But I think it's a good move. And Adam Silver, if you need help planning the lottery tournament, you can hit me up on Instagram. So the next thing I wanted to discuss is the NBA potentially expanding, and it's been reported that if they do expand, it would be to Seattle and Las Vegas. Now, Seattle, they had a team already. They had the Seattle Supersonics, and then they moved to Oklahoma City and became the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, but there's definitely a market in Seattle. Like, those fans are passionate basketball fans. They have the Seahawks. They have the Seattle Kraken. Like, those fans are definitely passionate basketball fans in Oklahoma, in Seattle, like I said, because they have the Kraken, they have the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. So Seattle, I think, is a perfect spot for the NBA, because you already know it works because you've been there before, and you know that you're going to be able to sell tickets because fans in Seattle are so passionate about basketball. But Vegas, I think Vegas works too, but I think Vegas is a big thing because now, like, I think if you're gonna put a team in Las Vegas, you gotta move the NBA Cup playoffs out of Las Vegas, because I don't think it makes sense to have the Vegas team playing in Vegas, potentially having home field advantage in the NBA Cup, because Cup would be in Vegas. But I don't know. I personally like the NBA expansion, and if that does happen, both teams would go to the Western Conference, and then more than likely the Minnesota Timberwolves or the New Orleans Pelicans. But probably 75% the Wolves will, 75% is probably going to be Minnesota moving to the Eastern Conference, which is phenomenal because the Wolves would, Anthony Edwards and the Wolves would strive so well in the Eastern Conference. They would do phenomenal in the Eastern Conference. But yeah, that is gonna wrap up this week's episode. Let me know what you guys think. Like, have you ever fallen out in love with the game of basketball? What are your thoughts on how the NBA can fix tanking? And what are your thoughts on the NBA potentially expanding? Let me know over on the Instagram page at Books and Hoops Podcast. If you want more of me, you can go over to the YouTube channel, or if you're listening on YouTube, check out the other videos. We have a new sports show called The Zone, which we be basically doing this. But so we talk about other sports as well. And then TikTok as well as podcasts of BB. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys are phenomenal. Books and Hoops strong. And I'll see you guys next episode. Later.